Ladies and gentlemen, there's a power in stillness, a strength in patience, and a quiet confidence in knowing your worth. Too often we chase validation, affection, or love, believing that our value is measured by how much we give, pursue, or sacrifice. But I want you to remember this simple phrase: let him come to you. This is not about pride. It's not about games. It's about understanding the power of attracting rather than chasing. Self-worth is not arrogance. It is alignment with who you truly are. When you understand your value, you stop asking others to define it for you. Instead of looking outward for validation, you begin to cultivate an inner knowing, an unshakable foundation of confidence. It doesn't mean you believe you're better than others. It means you refuse to believe you're less. It means you understand what you bring to the table, even when no one acknowledges it yet. When this belief lives in you quietly and consistently, it shows up in your presence, your voice, your boundaries, and even your silence. The world responds differently to someone who walks with self-assurance. People may not be able to explain it, but they feel it. They respect your time more. They listen more closely. They sense that you are not easily swayed by flattery or desperation. That energy is magnetic. It's not forced. It's not loud. It's calm, steady, and grounded. You don't have to speak more, do more, or give more to prove yourself, because you already know that your being, your presence is enough. This magnetic energy repels what is not aligned and attracts what is. When you are rooted in self-worth, you're not easily distracted by temporary attention or shallow admiration. You're not interested in convincing someone to see your value. You understand that those who are meant for you will naturally be drawn to you, and more importantly, they'll stay for the right reasons. You won't have to chase or prove yourself, because you'll already be living as proof of your worth. Self-worth allows you to navigate rejection with grace. You won't crumble when someone walks away or fails to reciprocate your energy. Instead, you'll recognize that their distance has nothing to do with your value and everything to do with their capacity to appreciate it. You stop internalizing every disappointment as a personal deficiency. You begin to see that sometimes rejection is simply redirection, a sign that something better, something truer is on the way. When you carry self-worth, you become more selective with your energy. You don't give your time to just anyone, and you don't allow people to take without giving. You protect your peace because you understand it's sacred. You surround yourself with people who nourish you, not drain you. This shift isn't selfish, it's healthy. It's the natural boundary that comes from loving yourself enough to choose what enhances your life over what depletes it. Magnetism rooted in self-worth is not about manipulation, it's about authenticity. You're not playing hard to get, you're just not willing to shrink, beg, or perform to be loved. You're showing up as your full self unapologetically and trusting that those who are meant for you will meet you there. You are no longer trying to fit into spaces that were never designed for your presence. Instead, you're letting your light shine fully, allowing it to guide the right souls toward you. True self-worth isn't dependent on what others think or feel about you. It's a daily decision to honor your value regardless of the applause or the silence. It's knowing that even on your quiet days, even when no one is watching, you still matter. You still have something to offer. And that energy, subtle yet undeniable, is what makes you magnetic. People are drawn to what feels real, steady, and whole. There is a major difference between chasing and attracting, and the distinction lies in energy. Chasing comes from lack. It's rooted in the belief that something is missing and that you must run after it to become whole. It's frantic, unbalanced, and exhausting. When you're chasing someone, whether it's attention, love, validation, or affection, you are essentially placing them on a pedestal, believing they have something you need in order to feel complete. You become the seeker, the persuader, the performer, hoping your efforts will earn you what should be freely given. Attracting, on the other hand, is rooted in fullness. It's the energy of knowing who you are and allowing the right people and opportunities to meet you where you already stand. When you are in a state of attraction, you're not striving to be chosen. You have already chosen yourself. You have already acknowledged your own value, your own wholeness, and your own power. From that space, you radiate a presence that draws others in, not because you're trying to, but because you've cultivated something real within. Chasing often leads to compromising your standards. When you focus on acquiring someone else's attention or approval, you may start bending your boundaries, reshaping your identity, or shrinking parts of yourself just to be more appealing. You become afraid to say no, to speak up, or to walk away because you're operating from the fear that if you stop chasing, everything will fall apart. But what you don't realize is that the more you chase, the more you teach the other person to devalue your presence. Because what is easily available is often taken for granted. The energy of attraction requires trust. It requires the courage to be still, to let go of forcing outcomes, and to believe that what is aligned with your energy will find its way to you without manipulation. This doesn't mean you don't make effort in relationships. It means you stop overextending, overgiving, and overcompensating in order to receive something that should come naturally. True connections are mutual. Real love is reciprocal. And if it has to be chased, then it was never rooted in balance to begin with. There is also dignity in allowing people the space to choose you. When you chase, you don't give them that space. You take it upon yourself to initiate, pursue, and hold the connection together. But what happens when you step back? If the connection is genuine, it won't fall apart. The other person will rise to meet you, and if they don't, that's a revelation, not a loss. You give yourself the gift of clarity by choosing to attract rather than chase. You begin to see who is drawn to your essence, not your effort. The more you chase, the more you disconnect from your authenticity. You begin to act, speak, and move in ways that are not in alignment with your truth, simply to maintain someone else's interests. You become anxious, unsure, and unsettled, constantly second-guessing yourself because your peace is now tied to someone else's response. But when you shift to attracting, you reclaim your center. You start operating from a place of confidence, calm, and clarity. You don't need to impress. You just need to be. Attraction is about resonance, not pursuit. It's about becoming so aligned with your values, your purpose, and your truth that you naturally draw in people and experiences that match your frequency. You're not chasing something outside of you. You're becoming the kind of person who magnetizes what you desire simply by living fully as yourself. In doing so, you send a silent message to the world. I am whole, I am worthy, and I am ready for what's aligned with me to come freely, not through force. In a world that glorifies urgency, patience is often misunderstood. We're taught that if we're not constantly moving, achieving, or chasing something, we're falling behind. Waiting is seen as weakness, and silence is mistaken for absence. But true patience is not passive. It's an active, powerful state of trust. It's the decision to pause, to breathe, and to believe that what's meant for you is unfolding, even when you can't yet see it. Patience requires emotional maturity, inner strength, and a deep understanding of timing. Powerful people are not always the loudest or the quickest. They are often the most grounded. Patience gives you that grounding. It allows you to stay rooted when everything around you feels uncertain. It prevents you from jumping into situations out of fear or loneliness. It teaches you to wait for clarity rather than rushing for closure. And most importantly, it shows you that your peace does not depend on instant gratification or immediate results. Patience is the quiet confidence that says, I don't have to force what will flow to me in its own time. Patience teaches you to value quality over speed. In relationships, especially, it means not settling for whoever shows up first, but waiting for someone who shows up right. It means holding space for someone who is consistent, present, and emotionally available, not just someone who is convenient. Rushing into connection often leads to repeated cycles of disappointment because it's based on impulse, not intention. Patience interrupts that cycle. It gives you time to discern, to observe, and to choose wisely rather than react blindly. There is great power in the ability to withhold reaction. When you're patient, you don't immediately respond to every emotion, message, or situation. You take a step back. You assess. You ask yourself, is this aligned with my peace? Is this worthy of my energy? That pause is not hesitation, it's wisdom. People who react impulsively often regret their choices. But those who are patient give themselves room to understand not only what they feel, but why they feel it. That self-awareness is one of the deepest forms of power. Patience is not about waiting endlessly, it's about waiting wisely. It's not about tolerating poor behavior or sitting idle in toxic situations. It's about recognizing that not everything needs to be solved in this moment. Some things take time to reveal their truth. Some people need time to show their consistency, and some answers require silence before they arrive. Patience allows you to walk away from situations that demand urgency but lack substance. It gives you the space to choose peace over pressure. When you are patient, you refuse to be manipulated by time or timelines. Society might tell you that you're too late, that you should have done more by now, that you need to hurry before you miss your chance. But real power is in trusting that your life is not on anyone else's clock. It is unfolding exactly as it should. You don't need to chase love, career, success, or healing according to someone else's expectations. Patience lets you move at your own pace, and that pace is sacred. Patience also changes the energy you bring into relationships. When you are patient, you give others room to be themselves. You don't demand answers or force affection. You allow connections to develop naturally. You're not trying to rush someone into commitment, nor are you clinging out of fear of being alone. You're present, grounded, and secure in yourself, so you can let people come to you with authenticity, not pressure. That energy is rare, and it creates space for something real to grow. Settling doesn't always look like despair. It often wears the disguise of comfort. It happens in small decisions, quiet compromises, and subtle silences. It's when you convince yourself that something almost right is close enough, that a little affection is better than none, that someone being physically present but emotionally unavailable is good enough. Settling creeps in when you start measuring your needs against someone else's limitations rather than honoring your standards. Over time, this erodes not just your happiness, but your sense of self. To settle is to abandon the part of you that still hopes for more. It's a slow betrayal of your inner voice, the one that once dreamed of passion, depth, connection, and respect. That voice becomes quieter as you accept lukewarm love or half-hearted effort. You begin to rationalize the bare minimum, telling yourself that your expectations were too high anyway. But deep down, there's still a knowing. There's still a whisper reminding you that love shouldn't feel like begging, that time shouldn't feel like tolerance, and that your worth is not negotiable. When you settle, you teach others how little they need to give. People will only meet you at the level of effort you demand. If you continue to accept less, they have no reason to offer more. You begin to lose leverage, not because you lack value, but because you stopped requiring that value to be seen. Settling is not just a disservice to yourself, it enables complacency in others. It keeps them from growing and keeps you from receiving the kind of love and reciprocity you truly deserve. The fear of being alone is often the driving force behind settling. You start to believe that this is as good as it gets, that maybe everyone disappoints, that real connection is too rare, too far away, or too much to hope for. But fear is a poor architect for your future. Building a life or a relationship from fear results in a foundation that will always feel unstable. The absence of someone who isn't right for you is not a loss. It's space being made for something better, something truer, something worthy of your heart. You are not asking for too much by wanting the bare essentials of love: communication, consistency, respect, presence. These are not luxuries, they are fundamentals. And yet, so many people settle for someone who texts back eventually, shows up occasionally, or listens half-heartedly. You begin to redefine normal through the lens of dysfunction. But wanting to be prioritized, heard, and loved with intention is not asking for too much. It's asking the right person to rise to the occasion. One of the most radical acts of self-love is saying no to almost love. It takes strength to walk away from what's familiar, especially when it gives you just enough to keep you hooked. But love should never feel like emotional starvation. If you have to plead for effort, clarity, or commitment, it's not love. It's survival. And you are not made to survive affection. You are made to thrive in it. You were made to be met fully, not partially. To be cherished, not tolerated. The moment you stop settling, everything changes. You begin to attract differently. You show the world that your heart is not available for part-time love or conditional presence. You create space for what is aligned, for what honors your worth, and for what reflects the love you are willing to give. But it starts with a decision, a bold, quiet decision to no longer water down your needs or shrink your desires to fit someone else's limit. The way you carry yourself teaches others how to treat you. Long before you utter a word or set a boundary, your energy communicates your level of self-respect. It speaks through your tone, your posture, your reactions, and the things you tolerate. When your energy is rooted in confidence, peace, and clarity, people feel it, even if they can't describe it. It tells them what you expect, what you accept, and what you won't entertain. Your energy is your standard, and people will rise or fall based on it. You are always teaching people what your limits are, whether intentionally or not. If you consistently overextend, people will assume you're always available. If you silence your needs to avoid conflict, they'll assume your needs are important. If you laugh off disrespect to keep the peace, they'll keep pushing the line. But when your energy is aligned with your worth, there's no confusion. You don't have to beg to be respected. You don't have to repeat yourself. Your presence becomes a boundary in itself. The energy you bring into a relationship becomes the tone of that relationship. If you show up in desperation, you create an uneven dynamic, one where you're always proving, pleading, or persuading. But if you enter with self-possession and calm, the energy shifts. You don't demand attention, you draw it naturally. You don't rush to fix every misunderstanding or secure every emotion. You stand in your peace, allowing others to either match it or walk away. And that inner steadiness sets the emotional tone for every connection you keep. When you operate from grounded energy, you stop reacting, you start responding. You no longer feel the need to match someone's chaos with more chaos. You don't let passive aggression bait you into arguments or inconsistency lure you into overcompensation. You step back, you observe, you respond from a place of clarity, not urgency. And in doing so, you establish a new emotional standard, one where maturity, presence, and mutual respect become non-negotiable. That kind of energy is not just attractive, it's transformative. You also begin to attract what mirrors your own emotional state. When you carry unresolved wounds, anxious patterns, or a lack of self-trust, you often draw in people who reinforce those conditions. But when you cultivate inner wholeness, when you nourish your peace and protect your joy, you change the frequency of what enters your life. You become a filter for your own experience. The people who are chaotic, inconsistent, or disrespectful no longer feel like home. Instead, they feel out of place, and that discomfort is your clarity. Setting the energetic tone doesn't mean being cold or distant. It means being clear. It's a loving firmness, a calm rootedness in your own emotional landscape. You don't need to constantly explain your value to those who are meant to see it. You don't have to fight to be heard by someone who is willing to listen. And you definitely don't have to perform to keep anyone's attention. Your energy makes your expectations known without needing to over-explain. And in that clarity, you protect your space from anything that would diminish your peace. Eventually, your energy becomes a filter, not just a message. People who are aligned with you will feel drawn in, not because you chase them, but because your presence offered safety, truth, and depth. Those who cannot meet you there will slowly distance themselves. And that's not rejection, that's refinement. Your energy repels what doesn't belong and invites what does. You no longer have to convince anyone of your worth because you've already embodied it in how you show up, speak up, and stand tall without apology. There is a quiet peace in trusting that what is meant for you will never miss you. It's the kind of peace that doesn't scream or strive. It simply holds space. It holds space for timing, for growth, for divine alignment. So often we try to rush life, fearing that if we don't take control, we'll miss our moment. But what's truly meant for you cannot be lost. Not by delay, not by distance, not even by detour. It may take time. It may take a few closed doors, but it will always find its way to your life. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where you need to be. That truth can feel uncomfortable, especially in a world that tells you to move faster, do more, and catch up. But what's meant for you doesn't operate on society's schedule. It doesn't respond to pressure. It unfolds according to purpose. And that means your path may look different from everyone else's. And you're not missing your life. You're living it step by step, becoming a person who can receive what is yours in the right way. Sometimes the delay is not denial, it's preparation. You may want something deeply, but you may not yet be ready for the weight of it. Or perhaps what you're waiting for is still becoming ready for you. There's timing involved in everything meaningful. A tree does not bear fruit the day it's planted. And a relationship, a calling, a dream worth having often needs space to take root. What's meant for you isn't just about arrival, it's about becoming aligned with what you're meant to receive. Trying to force outcomes is a form of fear disguised as action. When we believe we have to manipulate, chase, or cling, it's often because we don't fully trust life. We think we have to make things happen or we'll lose our chance. But that mindset only creates anxiety. It steals your presence and replaces it with pressure. When you trust that what is meant for you will find you, you stop fighting life. You begin to flow with it. You let go of timelines and lean into trust, knowing that what's real won't require force. This trust also changes how you handle disappointment. When something slips through your fingers, a person, an opportunity, a door you hoped would open, you begin to see it differently. Instead of questioning your worth, you begin to accept a redirection. You understand that not everything that looks good is good for your path, and not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. Some exits are necessary, and some endings are the beginning of your real alignment. Rejection becomes protection. Delay becomes refinement. Letting go becomes easier when you believe in divine alignment. You no longer grip people who are slipping away. You stop trying to resuscitate things that have run their course. You release with grace, not bitterness, because you know that what is meant for you is not fragile. It doesn't require begging. It doesn't need to be chased. It arrives with clarity. It stays with ease. It meets you where you are, not because you forced it to, but because it belongs there. You become magnetic to what is yours when you trust your path. You stop grasping and start receiving. You stop proving and start embodying. And in that quiet, grounded space, things begin to unfold in ways you couldn't have scripted. People arrive, opportunities align, peace replaces panic. You realize that you were never without direction. You were simply being prepared to hold what's meant for you with both hands, fully present, fully ready. Stillness is often misunderstood in a world addicted to noise and movement. We're conditioned to believe that action is strength, that momentum means progress, and that silence must indicate surrender. But there's a profound, quiet power in stillness. It is not the absence of effort, it is the presence of discipline. It is the conscious choice to pause, to ground yourself, and to listen deeply when everything around you is demanding a reaction. Stillness is where clarity lives. It's where you learn to respond rather than to react. In stillness, you become deeply acquainted with your inner world. You hear the things that busyness drowns out: your intuition, your fears, your unresolved wounds, your hidden wisdom. You begin to understand what truly matters rather than chasing what merely distracts. In that silence, things rise to the surface: truths you've buried, desires you've ignored, and answers that only reveal themselves when you are finally quiet enough to receive them. This is not weakness. This is radical self-awareness. There is a different kind of strength in not needing to chase. In relationships especially, stillness says, I don't need to perform for your affection. It says, I can love you and release you at the same time. It says, I trust that if this is real, it will remain. Stillness allows you to step back without fear, to not text first, to not over-explain, to not force a response. It is the strength of knowing that you are enough without constantly proving it, that your presence, even in silence, carries weight. Stillness teaches emotional regulation. Instead of being tossed by every emotion or external trigger, you learn to pause. You learn to hold space for your feelings without being consumed by them. You no longer lash out in anger or spiral in anxiety. You don't crumble when someone pulls away or feel the need to chase validation. You sit with the discomfort. You breathe through the tension. And in doing so, you reclaim your power, because anyone can act impulsively. True strength is the ability to remain still when the storm hits. The world may interpret your stillness as indifference, but that is a reflection of their discomfort, not your truth. People who are used to noise may misread your silence. People who equate love with effort may misjudge your calm. But you are not here to prove your heart by constant movement. You are here to embody your worth, even in quiet moments. Stillness is not a lack of care. It's the space where deeper love, deeper thought, and deeper boundaries can form without chaos clouding their creation. In stillness, you reclaim your time and your energy. You stop giving away pieces of yourself to anything that doesn't reciprocate. You stop overextending just to be seen. You no longer exhaust yourself for fleeting attention. You conserve your energy for people and spaces that truly honor you. Stillness becomes your filter. It becomes your way of saying, not everything deserves my immediate response. It's how you protect your peace without apology. Ultimately, stillness is where transformation begins. You cannot grow when you are constantly running mentally, emotionally, or physically. Just as a seed must sit in the darkness of soil before it blooms, you too must embrace moments of stillness as sacred. They are not delays, they are transitions, not inactivity, but recalibration. In the stillness, you remember who you are. You remember what you need, and you learn that strength isn't always loud or visible. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to remain grounded when the world tells you to chase. Boundaries are not barriers, they are bridges to self-respect. Many people see boundaries as walls meant to shut others out, but in truth, boundaries are how we teach others how to love and respect us. They are the language of self-worth. When you set a boundary, you're not creating distance from others. You're creating space for mutual understanding, safety, and emotional honesty. Boundaries are how you protect your energy, your peace, and your sense of identity in a world that often demands more than it gives. Empowerment begins the moment you decide that your well-being matters. Too often, people remain in situations that drain them because they're afraid to disappoint, afraid to be misunderstood, or afraid of losing someone. But there is no empowerment in self-abandonment. Every time you say yes when your heart says no, you chip away at your confidence. Every time you allow someone to overstep your limits, you teach yourself that your needs are secondary. Boundaries remind you and others that you are not available for anything that costs your peace. A boundary is not a punishment, it's an invitation to healthy connection. It says, here is how I can show up for you without losing myself in the process. It says, I want us to relate in a way that honors both of us. The people who truly love and value you will respect those limits. They will not require you to exhaust yourself to prove your care. They won't interpret your boundaries as rejection, but as clarity. And anyone who responds to your boundaries with guilt tripping, manipulation, or distance is showing you the truth, not about your boundary, but about their capacity. Learning to set boundaries requires you to first believe that your needs are valid. If you've been conditioned to please others or equate love with self-sacrifice, you may feel guilt when you draw the line. But guilt is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's often a sign you're doing something different. It's a sign that you are breaking patterns, especially those rooted in overgiving or codependency. Empowerment through boundaries means learning to sit with that discomfort, knowing it's part of your healing, not a reason to retreat. Boundaries also protect your time and emotional bandwidth. Without them, you may find yourself entangled in situations that leave you drained, confused, or resentful. You may feel stretched too thin, constantly pouring into others while neglecting yourself. But when you have clear boundaries, you begin to choose how and where you show up. You give from overflow, not depletion. You stop trying to fix or rescue others at the expense of your own balance. You stop confusing kindness with overextension. Empowering yourself through boundaries also transforms how you see rejection. When someone pulls away because you have asserted your limits, it's not always a loss, it's a revelation. You begin to see who is willing to grow with you and who only benefited from your lack of boundaries. This clarity is powerful. It removes illusions and false connections. It shows you that your peace is not something to negotiate and that your worth is not up for debate. The more you honor your boundaries, the more aligned your relationships become. Ultimately, boundaries are an act of self-love. They are how you say, I matter too. Not more than anyone else, but certainly not less. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need to justify your limits to those who truly see you. You simply need to trust that honoring your needs is not selfish, it is sacred. Boundaries allow you to remain whole in a world that often asks you to shrink. They are how you reclaim your time, your emotional space, and your power. One decision, one line, one honest conversation at a time. You are not hard to love. You are simply unwilling to be loved poorly. And that is your power. When you stop chasing, stop settling, stop performing, you create space for something real to find you. You begin to attract, not by force, but by alignment. The right person will not be confused by your standards. They will not be intimidated by your stillness or your boundaries. They will recognize the peace you've cultivated and meet you in it, not disrupt it. This is not about withholding love. It's about offering it with intention. It's about knowing that the right connection will not require you to compromise your soul or silence your truth. Let him come to you, not because you're playing games, but because you finally understood your worth. You are not waiting, you are living, growing, becoming. And in that fullness, the right person will see you clearly, come to you freely, and choose you completely. So keep rising, keep protecting your peace, keep honoring the quiet power within you. What is meant for you will not miss you. You are not hard to love. You are just no longer available for anything less than real, rooted, and reciprocal. Let him come to you. And in the meantime, never stop coming home to yourself.